Okay, so let's get right into it. We're going to talk about OpenAI because it's a company living a double life. On one hand, it's one of the fastest growing successes we have ever seen. And on the other, it might just be the single biggest financial bet in history. It's a wild story. And it all starts with one truly mind-blowing number: $143 billion. Let that sink in. That's the high-end estimate for how much cash OpenAI could burn through by 2029. And to put that in perspective, that's more than the combined losses Amazon, Tesla, and Uber racked up before they ever turned a profit. All three of them combined.
But, and here's where it gets wild, at the very same time, you have this: $20 billion in annualized revenue. I mean, if they hit that, they'll be one of the fastest companies in history to ever reach that milestone. By any normal measure, that is a historic, runaway success.
So that brings us to the core question, right? How can both of these things be true? How can you be sprinting towards record-breaking success and potentially record-breaking failure all at once? Well, that's the paradox we're going to break down right now. Okay, first we've got to look at the engine driving this whole thing, the crazy relationship between OpenAI's income and its expenses. Because as you're about to see, the faster their revenue rocket takes off, the more fuel it just incinerates. Just look at the speed here, from $1 billion in 2023 to a projected $20 billion by the end of 2025. That's a 20x jump in 2 years. It's absolute hypergrowth. But, and this is a huge but, this is only half the story. Now, let's flip the coin and look at the costs. They're not just growing, they are taking off even faster than the revenue. $5 billion burned in 2024, ballooning to a projected $14 billion in 2026. So that gap, the space between what they make and what they spend, is actually getting wider, not smaller. This one sentence really says it all. For every single dollar that comes in the front door, $2.25 are flying out the back. This isn't just, investing for growth. It's a cash burn rate that is fundamentally unsustainable. So the big question is, where on earth is all that money going? Well, it's going into one of the boldest, most audacious infrastructure plays in the history of business. You have to understand, OpenAI isn't just writing code. They're building the literal foundation for our AI future on a scale that you normally only see from, entire countries. $1.4 trillion. I mean, just say that out loud. That's the total amount OpenAI has promised to spend on computing power over the next 8 years. It's an absolutely stunning figure that locks them into this future of just massive, relentless spending. And here's where it's going. We're talking about a $500 billion data center project called Stargate, another $300 billion committed to Oracle, $250 billion to Microsoft, $100 billion just to NVIDIA for their chips. They are literally building the railroads for the new AI age. And to pay for all this, they have to raise money like there's no tomorrow. Just look at this timeline. October 2024, they raised $6.6 billion. Not even 5 months later, boom, another $40 billion. And the valuations are just exploding, from $157 billion to potentially over $800 billion in about a year and a half. They are constantly feeding this machine with more and more cash at higher and higher stakes. Now, you might be thinking, well, if you spend that much money, you must have an unbeatable lead, right? Not exactly. See, OpenAI isn't playing this game alone. While they're spending billions to build this giant castle, their rivals are figuring out how to swim the moat, and they're doing it way faster than anyone thought possible. So check this out. At the start of 2025, OpenAI was the undisputed king. They had almost 87% of the entire AI chatbot market. It looked like they were just completely untouchable. But now, let's jump forward just 1 year. By January 2026, the whole picture has flipped. OpenAI's share has dropped by over 20 points. And would you look at Google? They surged from under 6% to over 21%. And other players like Anthropic are gaining ground too. That massive lead is just melting away. So what's going on? Well, it really comes down to a huge structural advantage. Competitors, especially Google, have a secret weapon. They make their own custom chips. This gives them this insane cost efficiency, which means they can offer their services for up to 92% cheaper. And that forces OpenAI, with its much higher costs, into these brutal price wars that just bleed even more money. Okay, so you've got skyrocketing costs on one side and a flood of new competition on the other. All of that means the pressure to actually make money from their gigantic user base becomes absolutely critical. And this reveals another deep, deep problem at the very heart of their business. First, the good news, and it is great news. By late 2025, ChatGPT had something like 800 million people using it every single week. I mean, that is a colossal audience, one of the biggest on the planet. But, and this is the big catch, having a ton of users and having a ton of paying customers are two very, very different things. And this chart right here says it all. Out of those 800 million users, only 5% are actually paying subscribers. That means the other 95% aren't just neutral. They are an active, ongoing cost center, burning through incredibly expensive computer power for free.
And the problem isn't just the free users. Even for the people who do pay, the math is really tough. You see, a normal software company has these beautiful 80 or 90% gross margins. OpenAI's margins? They're below 50%. That's because every single question you ask it has a real cost in computing power. It makes their business run more like a hardware company, but with the spending habits of a Silicon Valley unicorn.
So let's pull back for the big picture. We've seen this movie before, right? All these famous tech companies lost billions before they became giants. Is OpenAI just following that same path, but on a, much bigger scale? Or is something fundamentally different this time? This table, this is what you need to see. Amazon, Tesla, and Uber together lost about $28 billion before they were profitable. OpenAI is on track to lose 4 or 5 times that much. But the money isn't even the most important part. Look at the cost structure. The other guys had costs that eventually leveled out. OpenAI's costs are variable, and they are recurring. Every new user, every new query adds to the burn, forever.
Which leaves us with two totally different potential futures. You have the bull case, which is Sam Altman's grand vision. AI becomes so powerful and so essential that today's spending looks like a bargain, and it all leads to a $1 trillion IPO. But then you have the bear case, which is just as real. At their current burn rate, if they don't get another massive round of funding, they could literally run out of money by the middle of 2027. So we end right back where we started, with a massive question. Is this insane, high-stakes gamble just the price you have to pay to build the most important technology in human history? Or are we all watching, in real time, the creation of the most spectacular and expensive business failure the world has ever seen? I guess the next couple of years will give us our answer.